This is the realistic concert-made MG-1. You might be quick to dismiss this synthesizer as a super cheap Radio Shack synthesizer, but you should know that it was designed and manufactured by the Moog company and is therefore a Moog synthesizer. I'm going to demonstrate the sound and functionality. First of all, we have tone source 1, which is oscillator 1. Pretty standard sounding oscillator. It comes with both a square wave, which you heard, and a saw wave. It has 3 different octaves: -2, which you just heard, -1, and 0, giving it a range from this note down to this note. Here is tone source 2, or oscillator 2. It has also a saw wave. It is naturally an octave higher, starting off with -1, as opposed to oscillator 1, which started off with -2. But this is the saw sound of oscillator 2. That's as low as, that is as low as oscillator 2 goes. It also plays an octave higher than that, and an octave higher than that. So its range goes from to, you have the saw wave, which we've been listening to. You also have a pulse wave. Unlike some other Moog synthesizers, you can choose the saw on one oscillator and the pulse on the other, or the saw on one oscillator and the square on the other, or vice versa. Of course, you can have both saws, or a pulse and a square. Oscillator 2 has its own independent tuning slider marked detune, and here's the range of that. We might have wished that you could go up an entire octave, but you've already got octave settings, so you don't really need to. But it might have been nice. In any case, you can definitely get fourths and fifths, which is primarily what you're probably going to be looking for. Obviously, you're going to get different intervals as you mix the various octave settings, and you'll get different timbres by mixing and matching the various waveforms. What I have not shown you yet is the sync switch, which you'll find right up here in oscillator 1. Now, already, this synthesizer, this extremely inexpensive monophonic synthesizer, is demonstrating some great functionality by, first of all, having 2 oscillators, second of all, having a tunable second oscillator, third of all, having independent waveforms for both of these. Some Moogs don't. And then, on top of that, you have sync. Now, this isn't your great sync from some of the syncs that you've heard from other synthesizers, but it's still cool that this really inexpensive monophonic synth has waveform sync. So here is a demonstration of it. Basically, you switch it on, different waveform settings and different octave settings yield different results, and you basically control the sync sound using the tuning slider. It only works from 0 to +2, so that's no giant thing, it doesn't really matter, but and basically here are some of the sounds you can get out of the sync. You will probably recognize them. course, you can play with it like I just was, real time, moving the sync setting, or you can just choose a setting and go with it. So you can get subtle variations in timbre that you wouldn't be able to get from a normal synthesizer, which didn't have sync, or didn't have the flexibility that the sync provides with the various waveform and octave settings. So there's a huge variety of timbre present just in the oscillators themselves before you even get anywhere else, which I think is the hallmark of a great synthesizer. If you have a great source of timbral variety, then everything you pile on top of that, like the filters, etc., just multiplies your possibilities massively. So that's why you've already got a great synth. We haven't even moved out of the oscillator, and you have massive timbral variety in comparison to other monosynths, other inexpensive monosynths. I would say other monosynths with limited functionality, but this thing has crazy functionality, especially for the price you'd pay for it. Anyway. And let's also not forget that we can turn down oscillator 2. We can adjust the volumes of both oscillators to get subtle sounds. Like that one I was just playing, it has a very distinct synced second oscillator, but we can bring that down. There it's completely gone, but here we'll bring it back up just into sort of a subtle range. And so you get these sounds that sound, well, they add a certain fatness that wouldn't normally be there because of the distortion generated by the sync, which I think gives this synthesizer a sound, on occasion, with the proper programming, that approaches synths that cost a great deal more money. Next, we'll move directly into the filter, which is, as you might know, as this is not just a realistic synthesizer, it is also a Moog synthesizer, you have a Moog ladder filter in this monosynth. So I will use my trademark right off the bat. You've got these great oscillators with oscillator sync, a feature you only find on more expensive synthesizers, and this variety, and then you've got a Moog filter. So what are you looking for if not those two things in a synthesizer? There's some, well, somebody right now is probably saying a decent envelope generator, but we'll get to that. So anyway, back to this awesome Moog filter built into this budget synth. So we have the filter cutoff, which you'd expect. We have a very nice resonance, which is called peak emphasis on this unit. Some of these names are just awesome, but yes, the peak emphasis is the resonance. And yes, it is also self-oscillating. It is a filter with resonance that gets to the self-oscillating point, which allows a lot of great effects. The Moog filter comes with keyboard tracking. It is not variable keyboard tracking. It has 3 settings, which is out, which means the keyboard tracking is not on. In case you're unaware, keyboard tracking is when the voltage from the keys controls the filter cutoff point. So when you have keyboard tracking to off, the voltage from the keys is not controlling the filter cutoff point.